Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny, and with me in today's session, let me start from scratch, is Johan de Tooy. We both work for, Johan can do just a small introduction of himself just now. I work for the Center of Excellence. I'm the team lead for the storage team, for the global storage team, and we do demonstrations and proof of concepts for customers on Hitachi solutions. So the storage team, obviously the focus is storage. So anything storage related, this could be predominantly obviously from a software side, but we obviously also need to understand the hardware. And this is normally and ideally around Ops Center and how Ops Center helps the customer to perform his day-to-day functions, or to help him with more advanced things like automation and integration with third-party and into the third-party applications and other devices that he has in his data center. So today we're going to take you through, Johan and myself, we've created some demo use cases for you, specifically for the Hong Kong partners that we got from a survey that OJ and Mandar and team has performed, and we will discuss those. Johan, can you maybe do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yes. So yeah, my name is Johan de Tooy. Like Johnny mentioned, we're basically in the same team looking at the same portfolios. And we kind of just split up. There was a couple of use cases which we decided just to split up. So we thought it would be easier if we kind of show our own automation. So it might be a little bit easier to kind of take you through them step by step. So Johnny is just going to do his introduction of Automator and then show his use cases. And then I'm going to do mine, and then also another colleague of ours, William, which also did one or two. It unfortunately has another meeting that he has to attend, so I'm going to show his then as well. But we can keep it also interactive. So if you guys have any questions, don't feel shy. You are welcome to ask immediately. So you can stop us. Also, if you don't want to ask or unmute yourself, you can also ask it in the chat, and we'll monitor, or Mandar can monitor that for us. We can also answer that for you.
Sure. And also, if you don't understand anything, or you think that this is going faster, please slow us down. That's fine. That's also fine. Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, the agenda is what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be everything around the Ops Center Automator product today. So the module Automator in the Ops Center portal. I will just quickly take you through what Ops Center, what the portal looks like, so you can just have a look and feel for what it looks like, and then you'll see everything will be around Automator. So the focus around Automator is to first give you an overview of Automator. What does Automator comprise of? Then we'll look at the components inside Automator. So how does Automator connect to all these your different devices and softwares in your data center, and how does it then collect information and pass information? So pretty much around the interaction with Automator into your environment. We'll also at the end discuss the API as well, because Automator has got both an inbound and outbound API. This means that you can, from another application or another hardware device, talk to Automator to give it instructions, and vice versa. Automator obviously can talk to other devices. It could be software or hardware to give it instructions or collect information or whatever you've told it to do. And then the main part of our session today will be just around demonstration. So I've got a very tiny little deck that just will give you a baseline knowledge on Ops Center and on Automator. And then for the rest, we will dive into Automator and look at the Automator framework itself, the self-service portal. We'll look at the service templates, and then specifically the service templates that we'll focus on today will be these customized service templates that the COE has done for you guys. So like Johannes said, it was kind of busy, so we split these templates up between engineers to actually develop this for you. So being able to take a volume and enable GAD, which is Global Active Device, on a volume. This is a template that Johan wrote, and he will demo this to you. The taking snapshots, so automating the whole snapshot and mount the snapshot part. This we did through Protector. I wrote this automation, so that is done, and we can show that. And then the last one, William, our colleague, like I've mentioned, he's not, well, Johan mentioned he's not able to join us today due to another demo, but he wrote an automation that will do the zoning automatically for new hosts that gets volumes assigned. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick overview on Op Center. So Op Center consists, the base Op Center consists out of these modules. So your storage administration module, which is called Administrator, your data protection module, which is called Protector, your analytics, this has 3 modules. It's the end-to-end analyzer, it is detailed view analyzer, and also viewpoint also falls part of the analyzer suite. So it's 3 different modules in this module. And there you'll see is viewpoint, but it's actually part of the analyzer framework. Then the one we're going to focus on today is the Automator framework. So Automator actually talks to all of these other modules as well. And you'll see in our demo that we've done, so the global active device volumes that we provision, this actually gets done via Administrator and via Protector. So Automator leverages on the other products via the REST API that we spoke about to be able to facilitate this. The same thing is Automator is also going to talk to Protector to do the snapshots and mount the snapshots. And you'll see we've got other automations as well, where Automator talks to Analyzer to get performance information and talks to Administrator to get capacity information, so that the user has both of these sets of information in front of him when he's doing provisioning. So Automator has got many, many use cases and integration. And the ones that you see here is obviously just our product set, but this is not where it stops. It could be any product, because Automator does not restrict you on what devices or what applications you can talk to. You can talk to anything that basically supports a REST API or web connections, but we'll go through that in a second. So all those base modules are part of as part of a single OVA. It's a HTML, obviously front end, so everything is nice and responsive, and it's got role-based access with directory services authentication for different types of authentication methods. This is what our portal currently looks like. As you can see, and the reason why I just want to share a screenshot is that we can discuss. You'll see sometimes I've got 2 administrators and multiple analyzers. So this is definitely another method of doing things where you can have multiple of the applications or modules inside the same portals. This could be due to you want some users to only see certain arrays where you configure those, hence you configured multiple administrator servers. Or if you have different data centers, you might have different analyzer servers. You could also potentially, for different sites, also use different Automator servers, and then use a type of sharing mechanism to share templates, which we'll discuss. There's an import and export function with an Automator to share the templates as well. So this is all the modules. Like we said, today we will just focus on Automator. So Automator is obviously, as the name suggests, an automation framework. And the automation framework is there for you to automate things that are repeatable. And you'll be quite surprised that probably about 95% of your day-to-day tasks can actually be automated. Even requests that come through to your division or your department. So if you're a storage department or a or like or administrative department, which does server and storage and everything together with SAN switches, most of your requests can actually be automated. So the automation doesn't mean it's going to take your work away. It will just allow you to perform your actions quicker, and not just quicker, but you will be able to perform them all with the same sort of standard. I mean, as we know in IT, there are many ways to do a single task. So some users might do it one way, other users might do it another way. So by using like a framework like Automator, those tasks will all be done in the same fashion, meaning that if somehow or some later on you need to go look at the configuration, you know exactly what to expect. Obviously, if Automator then kicks off these jobs, there's no human error because this is all automated by this framework. Besides that is these tasks that it's performed. This can also be made available to other users. So meaning the requesters, I mean, the storage team or the server team, they don't think of the work that needs to be done for themselves. Some portion of this is obviously your day-to-day maintenance and administration part, and we call it like housekeeping. But most of the requests comes from other business units, like the VMware guys need some more capacity, or the Oracle guys needs data to be replicated, or they need a database to be cloned. So these type of requests that come from other business units, those requests that happen more often or most frequent, you can take those requests that you were supposed to have done and put this in an automated template, and then make this available through the self-service portal for those users so that they will be able to log in, and then instead of requesting to you, they can basically, like self-service, help themselves to do the job. You can still keep track of everything. I mean, you can still tell Automator, okay, but before you go do this, prompt me to let me know or inform me or keep me in copy, or generate an email or an HTML report. So there's many ways of still keeping track of who's doing what and to be informed about what is happening. The nice part about it is there's also integration into ITSM software as well. So even if you do not maybe trust some of those users to perform some functions, you can even get the tasks to first log a call. Let's say if you're using ServiceNow or whatever your ITSM software is, to first log a call, wait until somebody has approved the call, and only once it's been approved will the application actually continue and doing the job that you specified. So this is Automator as just like a quick overview or a look at it, and we'll dive down a little bit deeper into the component part of Automator. So obviously Automator needs to connect to these endpoints, so into your VMware environment to spin up VMs or to help with migrations, or if you're doing let's say you're doing a data migration, but obviously after that you want to release the storage. So how do I do zero-page reclaims and those sort of things? So how does Automator connect to these endpoints? Well, there's two distinct methods that we set up in Automator. The one is called a web services connection. So the web service connection is pretty much a REST connection. And inside the REST connection, we support both HTTP, HTTPS, and even for the older devices, SMIS is then also supported. So these are our three different main web services connections. But as obviously the name suggests, it's HTTP predominantly or HTTPS, depending on your security level. So the web service connection, also to set it up, can be set in groups so that you can distinguish between, let's say you've got a server farm, or you have, you want to address all your Op Center applications. So you'll create like an Op Center web services connection category, and then all your Op Center products can be under the same category. So when you reference the category, you can then sub-reference those specific names to get all their authentication details. And what the web services connection is for is that you don't constantly have to work with users and passwords as well. I mean, normally the VMware guys are not going to give you full access into the vCenter environment. But what they can do is they can come and create this web services connection for you. Obviously, you won't be able to see the password, but then you can interact with the vCenter server through this web services connection without you actually having to know the password. The second method is now for the remainder of the stuff that's in your data center. I mean, you've now established that you can use a REST connection to connect to, I mean, databases have REST, even servers like your BMC or your BIOS, they also have a REST API. It's called Redfish. And this you can use to interact, but there's what about all the devices or different devices? So for that, we have got agentless remote connections. So that from Automator, you can create and establish a session via SSH. So this obviously supports OpenSSH as well. So predominantly this is, I'm going to say Unix or Linux, but obviously Windows can also have an OpenSSH server or SSH running. Then dedicated to Windows, we have the WMI protocol. So this allows you to connect to any sort of Windows endpoint. And then, believe it or not, there's actually still people that use Telnet. So the agentless remote connections is for you to establish a session. Normally, this is going to be some form of operating system or appliance to do things like, let's say, I don't know, back up the zoning, or maybe add another zone into the existing active zone set, or to execute a PowerCLI or a PowerShell or Bash or Perl script, or maybe fetch performance or capacity information from another device to update a CMDB somewhere. So this is what the agentless remote connections allow you to do, is to tap again into these different peripherals and then fetch or execute some commands from them. To set this up is also extremely easy. It's the same sort of method that you saw for the web services connection. We'll also look at this in the GUI in a second as well, where you can configure either IPv4 or 6, and you specify Windows, which is the WMI. There's SSH, and you'll see on SSH, I'll show you, we've got password authentication, we've got key authentication, we've got 3 different methods, or you can also type in the password while you're authenticating. And then there's Telnet. Then with both the web services connection and the agentless remote connection, you can configure them to only work on specific infrastructure. So the infrastructure is now the hardware that you have available in your organization. And we'll go through that a little bit. But inside Automator, you can set strict role-based access control that the user will only be able to execute the role that he has, and he can have multiple roles, only on the hardware that he's got access to, and then only on the service templates, so that we can create groups of these service templates and put them in service groups. So you'll only be able to see those specific service groups on those specific hardware, and they'll only have that specific permission or permissions on the hardware platform. Then something that you'll also see, which is, and this is an aid for users. So obviously we'll dive into service templates just now, but anything that we automate, sometimes you have an automation which is just a double click, you double click it or it runs on a schedule and then executes. But most of the times, the automations that you're going to perform need some form of input. So that input can be static, but if it's static, somebody needs to update it if something changed. So we actually have got these things that are called external resource providers, which is a very fancy way of being able to tell you we will dynamically go and fetch the current data of these inputs, and we will display it for you in a very pretty way. So either a drop-down box, or it could be an object that you can multi-select, like a multi-array, or just a simple input field that you can just select. But pretty much you will get the latest information for these inputs. So let's say, to give you an example, you want to provision storage. But obviously to provision storage, you need to select the storage array. You might have storage arrays coming in, coming out, or you might have pools, because obviously the second part of provisioning to a storage array would be to select from which pools. So this information will be dynamically fetched from what is your current status, and that will be displayed for you. And this is called external resource providers. These are, everything you'll see in Automator is done as scripts. And the reason for this is that it gives you the capability to modify and to change it to your needs. That's why we've got many types of scripts that support it. There's JavaScript. Script itself is actually Python, and there's command line, or you can create files that you can pass, which you can have maybe other templates update the files as well. So there's many methods of creating these inputs that needed for the automations. So now we get to the thing that I've been speaking a bit about already, and this is called service templates. So service template is the actual automation that you execute. Unlike the other automation platforms that are out there, we have got quite a big set. I mean, I think in our environment, there's probably over 100 of automated templates that is available with the platform. You'll see that each one of them has got a status and it's got a version. And this is very important because this allows you to update any template and then any component inside the template. From as simple as changing the look and the feel of it to changing the template completely. But to do this, you either need to give the template a new version or a new name. This is why versioning is quite important. We can also run many different versions of the same template as well, because you might have a template that was customized for X, and there's still a use case for that, but everybody else is using the new one. So you can still give it to that X group and everybody else can still, so you can run multiple different versions, and we'll go through because it will go through the difference between services and service templates in a second. And then you can distinguish why this is important. So a service template, if you open it up, if you click on the view flow of a service template, is pretty much a blueprint of what you are going to execute. Inside each service template, you'll see that there are many different components to what it's going to execute. And each one of these components perform a single specific option. So these are called plugins. And again, you'll see, as like service templates, we've got thousands of different plugins. Even the plugins can be customized, or you can create new plugins as well. And the plugins put together, you'll see there's a specific flow. It will execute this one if this status is that, and then it will go into this one if it's needed, and it will go there. And there's a specific flow, and it's all drag and drop. You just put the plugin down, and then you instruct the previous plugin. Okay, after you've done, always execute this one, or only execute this if this and this status meets your approval. But this is pretty much what a service template consists of. It is a bunch of plugins that perform a specific job. And you can change or redirect or update or modify or put new ones in if you like. To do this, there's a module called Service Builder, which is like a integrated development environment, which allows you to make changes. It will show you what the impact is. You can do things like execute it in dry run mode, or maybe just create the template first for yourself to execute and nobody else can see the template. So you've got many different methods of testing your template to make sure it's ready before you release it out to your community. There's also community pages. Currently now, we're busy working on, and OJ might say something about this at the end. I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry, OJ, I don't want to just drop you, in front of the bus here.
No,
we do have
I will say something around that. Thank you.
But we do have a community portals, and we're busy migrating from one to another. But we've got also some nice templates that's normally available in the community portal as well. So the templates that you see in front of you is not just the only templates that you have. There's actually templates in the CLI, which we'll discuss also a little bit later, which is templates that might not be, everybody's cup of tea, but it is available on the platform, and you can actually go and extract it directly from the Automator CLI as well, and we'll talk about that as well a little bit later. So I did the drop of the name there, talking about a service. So what is a service? So you don't actually execute a service template. Like what we said, the service template is just a blueprint. That is just the instruction, what it is going to do. You actually create a service off the service template, and this is what you're going to execute. The service might be, in this example, a storage provisioning service template. But to able to execute it, you need to feed it some inputs. Like if you're going to create a volume, what is the storage array? What is the pool? What is the host that you want to assign this to? What's the size of it? So these are input that is needed. So when you create the service, you specify this inputs. You can then create another service. It doesn't need to be just one service. You can create service 1, service 2, and service 3 off the same service template. And you can then change differences. You can say the first service of that service template, the user can create the volume and he can attach the volume. The second service, the user can maybe create the volume, attach the volume, and create a data store. The third one, as you can see, we add more and more functionality because the service template, this is what the service template can do. It can create, attach, create the data store, and replicate the data store. And you can choose what you want to show the user and what inputs he can pass to that. And we'll show you an example when we actually log into the platform. So this allows you later on, even if you upgrade the service template, that the base functionality that you had for those other users, because maybe the first one is used by the Oracle team, the second one is maybe used by the VMware team because Oracle is not going to have a data store, but VMware will have a data store. And the fourth one is maybe from the Kubernetes guys that they want to create volumes, attach, create data store, replicate, and with a bit of cloud integration. So you can even upgrade templates, but still keep the original functionality of, let's say, the V1 version for the guys that were still using the previous version of the service. So role-based access control, I've sort of spoke about this, but I've got some visual aids as well. So we create infrastructure groups, like I've mentioned. So infrastructure group is a collection of the web connections. So those are the SMIS, the HTTP and HTTPS connections, as well as the agentless remote connections, the SSH, WMI, and Telnet connections. So you can choose those, the ones that you want the user to see, and you can create an infrastructure group. Then the service templates that we have, we can create a service group and put the service templates that we want that user to see inside a service group. And then next we can select the user, or we can create a group of users, however might be easier for you. And then we can give them different permissions, so which they will be able to execute on those services and only on those infrastructure. So like we've mentioned, role-based access control. So if I'm a user and I'm logging in, this is what a typical self-service portal will look like. And we'll show you what the main portal will look like just after this, where you can see what all the templates will pretty much will look like. Then at the end, we'll also talk about the integration and the API. Like we've mentioned, there's outbound API integration and there's inbound API integration. So you can do things like from ServiceNow, if you have a ServiceNow, let's say portal or catalog, and from this catalog, you want to provision storage. ServiceNow, we actually have got XML files that's on the Automator server that you import into ServiceNow, and then ServiceNow will be able to talk to Automator and execute whatever service template. And then obviously the reverse is also possible, that you from Automator is able to also talk into ServiceNow. So let's say if you're using the self-service portal in Automator, it can talk back to ServiceNow to open up a ticket, wait until somebody's approved the ticket, and then it will carry on. Or the other way around, if you're using the ServiceNow portal and a user requests a catalog item to provision storage, it will talk to Automator, and Automator will execute the service template, report back, okay, I'm done. And ServiceNow will update the ticket and continue. There's also integration into other automation frameworks, and we'll also have a closer look at this today. Ansible, as we all know, is also quite a growing automation framework due to the fact that it's quite simple and obviously free. But obviously it's also, it's good for what it is designed for, where Automator is obviously, it understands the infrastructure, so it's great at infrastructure automation. Also, it preserves the states, so meaning that if somebody else has changed something on the storage array, Automator would be aware of this, because Automator will interface into Configuration Manager, which is our REST API application or database, and it will talk to the CM REST interface to figure out what is the latest status. Where Ansible, if Ansible talks directly to the storage, it's not going to know if somebody else talks to it. So it's not as stateful as what Automator is. But we have got integration into Ansible. We've got 2 modules in Ansible that you install, and then from Ansible, we also have some example playbooks that you can take these playbooks and obviously expand them to other playbooks as well. And I'll show you some examples how from Ansible you can talk into Automator and, well, basically any of the Op Center modules, because of the REST API capabilities of all of the modules inside Op Center. But for Automator specifically, there are sample playbooks that come with the platform as well. And like I promised, I'm not going to bore you to death with just PowerPoints all day. So this is it. Now we can jump into a demonstration.
So I just wanted to quick check with the teams here. Any questions you have in understanding, or you are already clear about what are the real benefits or value of Automator? I understand some of you have already gone through the trainings, right? So just wanted to make sure that the understanding about Automator is clear with everybody, because this is going to be very useful going forward. And especially for partners who are providing services to their customers, this is going to really benefit a lot, both from sales angle as well as from your SLA angle that you have with the customer in terms of completing the tasks. So any questions, please feel free to ask.
If you have any questions and maybe I'm busy talking about something, you also feel free to ask the question in the chat, and then either Johan or Manda or OJ can also respond to that.
Yeah, sure. And if you really don't want to ask questions, you can surely type in the chat, so we can cover those questions as well.
Okay. So I'm just going to carry on with the administration tab, just quickly go over the infrastructure groups and the connection settings. So as you saw in the in the spreadsheet or in the PowerPoint. This is where you configure a web services connection. It's quite basic. You click add, you select a category, could be an existing category, or you can create a new category, and then you can put the name for the device or the endpoint that you want to connect to. That endpoint could be a hostname or IP address. There's 2 protocols that you can select from, HTTP or HTTPS, and like what we also said, there could also be SMIS providers as well. You specify the port, the user ID, the password. If you need to go through a proxy, so if it's maybe an endpoint that is in a different network, we also support proxy connectivity as well. And this is the infrastructure group that you define it to, so that this web connection will only be able to talk to that infrastructure. Then the same thing for the agentless remote connections. So this is the Windows SSH, and there is public key and keyboard interactive, like I've mentioned as well. So meaning when this get executed, the user will either the password it will get from the from the web connection, or it will get you can also specify a key, or you can specify the password as the user then executes it. And then for some reason, people are still using Telnet out there. The infrastructure groups, that you have maybe a couple that you can create, and then they are a combination of the web connections and the agentless remote connections, and then the service groups. So which of these templates inside the service group will be able to see this hardware and this hardware, obviously through the different protocols, web or SMIS or WMI or SSH, sorry, I mean. So just what the system connects into. Obviously the user groups. So this is where you specify the user groups, and then for that user group, what users are available and what permissions does the user have. And as you can see, some will have different types of service groups, and on the different service groups, they can have different roles as well. As you can see, this will have a submit and a modify role. So this is the meat of the product. So meaning where all the hard work and the capability of the product lies is obviously the service template. So a service template is, like what we've said, is a blueprint. And if you go and look at the service template like this, allocate like with configuration manager, you go look at the view, the flow. Now we will see the inside of this template. And these, like I've mentioned before, are plugins. And even the plugins can be modified and changed to if you want the application or if you want this to behave differently. So this gives you obviously then great flexibility that you can change not just the template, but also the plugins inside of it, and then either upgrade it or create a new one with a new version. What this allows you to do is if you need to create a new template, like we created this for a customer called Smart Storage Provisioning, and all this is just combining performance data and configuration data together. But I didn't, and this is a template that I had to do for a customer demo, but I didn't have to do the standard provisioning part because I just took one of the normal templates that already has a standard provisioning, and I just pushed some performance information to that same automation that was already used. So this is the beauty of having all of these templates already available, that you can go and copy a little bit of this and copy a little bit of this and copy a little bit of these templates and put a brand new template together, but from the code or from the scripts that's already available to you. So very seldom would you need to go and actually write something entirely from scratch. And even for that, there's obviously, like I've mentioned, and OJ might talk a little bit about it later on, is the community portal as well. So this is the templates, and you'll see your templates is shown by a version, and normally you will get then, if it's a new template, you'll see there's a new flag to it. If a template needs is outdated, this means that there is a single plugin inside this template that needs updated. If there's a brand new version of the service template, then you'll see this need VUP, which is a version upgrade. So this means somebody is currently using this template, or this template has not been upgraded before. And how do you see if somebody is using the template? Well, if you click on the template, you'll see that on the template itself, it shows you used by services. So this is the service that you create off that service template. And we'll look at that in a moment. The last part that I want to show you is the import part. So if you get a template off the community page, or if you're sharing a template with, or let's say Global Delivery is helping you with a template, or our automation practice, then you can click import the template, and you can import and or right click to export templates as well. So let's go look then at a service. So like I've mentioned before, you don't actually go and create the template or execute the template, but you execute a service of that template.
Hey, hi, Johnny.
Yes.
Excuse me. Hey, this is Ringo. Maybe I'll suggest if we could go for the demonstration first and then do the explanation afterwards.
Okay. Do you want to go for the demonstration of the custom templates that we did for the group?
Yeah. Because I was saying it will be more interesting, and
Okay.
the partner may have more feedback on, and afterwards we can explain it in detail and see if they have any questions. Yeah.
Okay. So as we saw on the deck that we have, one of the templates, I'll start with the one that I created first, then I can hand over to Johan, was the automation of taking a snapshot, assigning the snapshot and mounting that snapshot to a server, any sort of server. So what we came up with is this template. It just says create a snapshot and mounts a snapshot. We also took it a little bit further than this because when you do any sort of snapshot management or mounting of snapshot management, you also maybe want to manage this afterward. So like what we explained in our little presentation that we had, Protector is our data copy management tool. So this means that Protector is the main module responsible for creating snapshots and managing those snapshots. Well, any form of replicated data or copy data, Protector has got very nice built-in features to manage this. So what our template does, as you can see, we've got a little Protector. It will interface with Protector to facilitate the creation of the snapshot and also the mounting of the snapshot. And we did this for the main reason that it allows you to maintain, or let's say it's great, you've now mounted the snapshot, but now you're done. You want to unmount it. Well, you want an easy way to unmount it? There's Protector. Just log into Protector and unmount the snapshot or move the snapshot somewhere else. So this is what Protector already has built in. So that's why we leveraged on Protector for this. So how this template works is, let's say for users, like we say, they want to not just do the snapshot for whatever disk, but they also want to mount that snapshot onto another host. So they would select a CMREST server. So selecting the server so that they can understand, obviously your storage arrays is registered to it. This then gives you a list of the storage arrays that are on the CMREST server. So they select the storage array. And let's say they want to snapshot this volume. We can also make it a multi-select that you can have multiple volumes instead of just a single volume. Now, this is the first part. Now, the next part would be we've now identified our volume that we want to create a snapshot, but now where do we want to mount it? And what do we want the group to be called? And how often do we want this to happen, the snapshot capability part? And how long do we want to keep it for? And this is the next block of information, which is called the snapshot information. So like I said, we're going to use Protector. So it will show you all your Protector. You might have multiple Protector servers. So you can select your Protector server there. And then we can give it a name. Just for simplicity, you're going to make it sample. And now we can specify how often do we want this to happen. So what is the frequency of the snapshots? So the default values, even in Protector, is every 8 hours. But here I can then go and change it. Then for how long do I want to keep the snapshots? So the default again is 1 week, but you can go and change this according to what you want. Then that snapshot obviously needs to be put into a snapshot pool. So here you select your snapshot pool that you want. And then where do you want that snapshot to be mounted to? So here we can choose a host. And again, I've now made this a single select, but we can also change this to be a multi-select. If we submit this template, I'm going to take it out of full screen that I can show you. So what this will do, like we said, it will talk to Automator. Let me just log back into my Automator platform. And it will go into Protector And now if I go to my monitor, this means all my active replication. I see a replication because we gave it a name sample. And as we can see here, the system is busy creating a snapshot. It just completed. So now we can see it's there completed. And if I go there now, it's because it started with the mounting of the snapshot. So what this template did in the backend that you are completely unaware of is it first created a node. So if I go search for the word sample now, it created a node called sample on that array that I've specified. Remember, in my template, I said I want to create a snapshot on my 5500, which is that serial number. So it went into the node section of Protector and then created a snapshot for that device ID. And if you recall correctly, the device ID was 160. The next thing it did is it went to the policy section and it created a policy because we want to create a snapshot. So it does not know if you just want to use one of the existing ones, or you can specify just to create a new one, which we did in this case. So it created a new policy called snapshot and then the name of that snapshot group that you wanted or that you specified. And we obviously specified sample. Then the data flow. So the data flow is, what pools do I use? Do I want any hosts to see it? And this is the data flow part in Protector. So Automator talk to Protector to create in the data flow, and the data flow is just a basic snapshot. And then it triggered the snapshot. So if I now go to my storages, and if I go to that 5500 of mine, I can see my mount operation is still going. And what it did, it has created a snapshot called, and you can see there's my snapshot called sample. And now what it's doing, it's mounting this snapshot onto that specific host that we spoke about. Where is the monitor part? Go back. And there we can see the job is still in progress. So it will just take a couple of seconds, probably still longer, and it's just mounting that snapshot now to that host. You can go into the job itself as well, where, let me just move this. If I look at the details of it, we can see that it's now starting the mounting of the snapshot. Here you can see all the commands that it's executing to perform that the mount of that snapshot on that host that we specified. I think we specified the ESXi 231 host. So it should mount it there, and then you are able to see. So as you can see, a very basic a template. It looks basic, but it actually on the back end, it's interfacing between Protector and between Automator. And it allows you to create a snapshot on any disk and then also take the snapshot, mount it to a host, and then later on, if you decided, okay, you're done with, you've done with the work that you've done or that you needed to do on that specific snapshot, hence the reason why you can create it. We can log into Protector, and you can then unmanage that as well. So meaning you can take the snapshot, you can unmount it from the host, and then you can clean it up. So this is the reason why we went through this approach to use it via Protector, that you can at least manage the snapshot afterwards. Any questions about this automation? As you can see, it's a very basic automation. It's literally just some Python that we've used to accomplish this. And when we talk about the service builder section, then we can dive a little bit deeper into the components of a service template. And I can take you, maybe use one of these as an example and show you what the setup of this will look like. If there are no questions about the snapshot and create, where did we see it? Was there a specific use case for this? Because obviously this is what we got from Manda and from OJ, what you guys have requested to see. So was there a specific use case that you had in mind, or how you're going to use this in your environment?
So team, this is basically what Johnny showed. It is based on the inputs what we had received, right? So this is one of the tasks that your teams perform with your customer, which takes a lot of time. So if you use Automator, it actually does it pretty quickly, and you can have multiple of these tasks that can be accomplished in a very quick time. That was the first use cases that we had in mind. So this is just to give a sample that doing your day-to-day activities with your customers that you already do today, but with manual steps. And that is what Johnny showed you, which is actually automated, the same thing.
See, and here you can now see that it's mounted to that host that we specified. And now from here on, if I want to, unmount it, it's just click and there's an unmount button and the system will unmount that snapshot and perform the cleanup then for you. So it's completely automated. The other thing that you can do as well is instead of like currently now we said we're going to do this and we want to run this now, is we can also execute this. And when we execute this, we can execute this as a repeat schedule, or say that we want to do this a number of times. So to give it an example, if we take that same template, and let's say we know we always need to, let's say, create a snapshot and mount of my Oracle databases, and I want to automate this, I can say I want this to run as a reoccurrence. And let's say at the end of the month type of thing. So the month, I can say at the end, or say the last day of the month, please do 10 copies for my Oracle environment, or 10 copies for my VMware environment. So you can even take this and run this on a specific schedule as well, so that you don't have to go and execute this. The system will execute and report corrected, and report back to you on the status of it. Johan, are you ready to do the other two templates?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so with
sorry.
that, I'm going to hand it over to Johan.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Terence from ACW Hong Kong. Actually, because I'm new to Automator, for the demonstration before, is it just select the it define the service template, or we can create a new service template? If we do create a new service template, how do we do a create a new service template?
I can show you how do we create a new service template. That's the easy part. It is when you're actually doing the automation around this that can. So creating a new service template, if you go to service templates, you can either say create here, and what that will do is that will open up this thing called Service Builder. And in Service Builder, we can now say we want to create a service template. We call it sample. We can give it, you must give it a vendor ID and display. Let's say this is sample doing something. We can put tags on it to search for it easier. And then now you have a blank canvas of the template. Now on the left-hand side is the plugin. So what do you want to do? Let's say if you want to change something in a VM, then you would look for that specific plugin to, let's say, create a virtual disk in a VM. If you then, and let's make it a very simple, this will just assign a new disk to a VM, and we want it to email after it's done. You take the email plugin and then you can give it a name, and you can say, you execute this, and once you've done, execute this. So there we've created a template that will create a virtual disk, and then once it's done, it will send an email. So obviously this is a very basic example, but the idea that I want to show you is that you make use of the plugins on the left-hand side, which you drag onto the canvas, and you can have multiple plugins. You can say, let's say we don't want to do that right now. You want to, then after you've created the virtual disk, you want to connect the virtual disk to the VM. And then you want to send up an email. So you literally take the plugins on the left-hand side, you drag them onto the canvas, you put them in order on how you want them to connect. You can even have multiple things happening at the same time. So let's say once you've connected it, before we send the email, let's say maybe you want to create the data store. You can put it in here. Put the data store, and then we can obviously do the email. But let's say maybe at the same time as doing the data store, we want to, for some reason, expand the data store as well. So you can execute things together to say, maybe it's connected properly. And then you say, once both of these are done, only go and set up the email. So, and even the plugins on the left-hand side, as you can see, you can make a copy of them. So you can then go and change the plugins, how they behave. So these are static plugins, but then you can also have scripting plugins as well. So we have command plugins, which allows you to run any sort of script. Could be PowerShell, PowerCLI, any Unix, Windows type of script, and capture the output and pass the output to something else. If you prefer JavaScript, we have got JavaScript plugins. They're integrated with the API. And like what we used in our demonstration is we used the Python plugin as well. So even if you want to go completely custom, this is also available. Does this answer your question on how a template is built?
Yes, thank you. That's fine.
Yeah, so the team, I think it is very important that whatever we are demonstrating today, just a sample based on the requirements came from you for your regular tasks. But Automator is a framework, as Johnny kept mentioning about, which can help you to automate anything which has a plugin or anything which has a API or a CLI or any script. You can automate using your existing stuff also.
All right, let me go ahead and share. All right, so two of the other requests, the one was to set up a volume with GAD, and then there was also a one to zone a new server, so on creating a volume, for instance. So we can start with maybe the GAD one. I'll do this one. I even integrated with ServiceNow, but the ServiceNow portion is optional. Doesn't have to be ServiceNow. I mean, all ITSM software nowadays, especially if it's a cloud portal, has some form of an API. Even if it's on-prem, it probably has an API as well. So if you want a full ticketing system as well with your automation, so that you know maybe it comes at a cost, then you can even let's say build that department. So I'm going to quickly show you what the template looks like, and then we're going to kind of cut it down to the bare minimum required, so that it's an easy automation for the user and doesn't become a complex task of also filling in multiple things. So if I go edit over here. Obviously, a user will not be able to edit it. I'm currently logged in as a sysadmin user, which means I've got full access to the template. All right, so I've selected my web connection, and as you can see, you've got these little icons, so you can obviously decide then what you want to do, and I've just made it hidden. So the user does not get to select what administrator. And as Johnny showed you right in the beginning on one of the screenshots, is in my Op Center portal, I could have different administrators registered, and each administrator could be managing different storage arrays. So therefore, it's one way of locking a user down to only being able to manage specific resources. So I could add that web connection within Automator, and then that becomes my sole selection, and he cannot change it. He will not be able to even see that it is going to this administrator. At the bottom of here, I can then select my ServiceNow web connection, especially if you want to run it with a specific user, for instance. Then we can decide if we want to do that. I'm not going to execute the ServiceNow portion. It's just to show you over here. If you are interested in seeing it, let me know, and I can showcase that as well. Right, now, as we can see here, I've already locked down certain things. So there's a lot of inputs in here because you can completely customize it how you want the user to be locked down to what resources again. So at the top over here, this is if I want to do ServiceNow integration. You can also say if you want to pen this for approval. So meaning somebody will get an email alert and say, yes, go ahead, he's allowed to do this, or decline it, in which case it will come back and then the automation will just stop. Right, so for now, we're just going to untick that. So these three over here are kind of built in. So you can do this for specific departments. So let's say I have a research department, for instance. And then within research, there might be different teams in there. So I can say this is maybe the IT department within research. So this is just for me to obviously keep track. And now because this will be bound to a specific service group or user group that will be executing this. I can maybe, if it comes at a cost, even put a cost center in there for them. So let's say something like 4567 3214, whatever, just my cost center numbers. Right, so these array filters are just if you have multiple arrays. So we've got these views. If there's, let's say, hundreds of them that you're managing via this administrator. So this is all dynamically looked up from that web connection that's specified. You can, of course, also use the filter at the top over here to kind of narrow down to a specific entry, for instance sake. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to narrow him down to this one. And we don't want him to, so this is my primary array, by the way. Now, if I only have two arrays, which I have GAD set up between, then I might as well go ahead and actually select it on behalf of the user, because it'll always go to those two arrays. So what I'm going to do is to also make this hidden. So it'll always pick this one as my primary array. Now, based on that, it will render the next section, and it will actually then show you all the VSMs that are configured on this primary array. And it'll also show you between which arrays it is actually done. So it's a matter of preference on if you want to lock a user down to a specific VSM as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick this bottom one over here, because I've got a physical to virtual. So mine secondary array, which is this 30839, actually has a VSM with which matches the serial number of the primary array. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Again, you can see that the next step was actually just rendered, picked on the based on the VSM, and there is my quorum that I can then use. Right, again, I've kind of, we can actually lock all of this down. The user doesn't need to see that. Right, now I want to select a pool, obviously for my arrays over here. So this is my primary. And again, these are all the ones on the selection at the top over there. So I'm going to say, I'm going to make that the pool for my primary volume. Again, I can decide whether I want the user to have flexibility, but let's say you're doing this for different departments. Maybe they purchase the capacity, so it's their pool, and you're kind of just hosting it for them. Then again, I can say, right, I'm going to hide this for them, which means that they cannot select another pool. They will always provision the primary volume within that pool. Right, so we're going to do this the same with the secondary. Again, it will render the pools based on the, sorry, where was my secondary array that I've selected. So I'm going to go ahead and then say, well, we'll put them in the production FMD, for instance. And we're going to hide that. On my copy group name, of course, I need to have a name. Now, just to show you that we don't have something that already exists, I'm going to go into protector over here, and we're going to put the word or HK in there just for Hong Kong. You'll see if I type in HK, this is under monitor. So this is everything that's actively being protected in my environment. You can see if I remove the filter. So as I put in HK, you can see nothing exists that has that in the word over there in the copy group name. So we're going back over here and we'll say just demo HK, for example. Right, so this is the label, so we can keep that, they can specify that. The volume label, so that's going to be for my primary volume. And also then I just copy the volume label from the primary over to the secondary. So it's going to pretty much match both on both sides. Right, and then my capacity, I'm not going to put anything in here because this is just going to, in fact, I don't have to actually put any default values in here. We're just kind of filling in everything that should be default at this point. And do I want to allow the user to, let's say, provision to a server or to a group? I'm going to leave that as is. So we're going to save this. And then we're going to go back over here. Should my user now go and obviously select this? This is what he should be seeing.
Johan, that is just for, again, this is related to the previous same question. What Johan did is just existing template. He just opened up and customized it for a particular, I mean, he filtered down something and saved as a new template so that a user can pick up with a minimal input and he can execute it.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what Mandel said. Remember, you can take that service template and you can create as many services as you want, and each service can be customized for the user that will be executing it. So, I mean, you can put in his details, his cost center, lock him down to his pool, his arrays, etc. So then when he executes it, even though you saw there's multiple input variables, this is the only things that he needs to fill in. I mean, you can even fill in defaults as well. So I can put a name in and it'll just keep on incrementing. So then it becomes literally a one-click button. So it depends on what kind of level of detail you want him or want to allow the user. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and
Yeah, so
obviously
Johan,
put in our,
just to
yes.
add just one more point that I wanted to make sure that the team understands here. When you are creating this template as a partner or developer, you have a full access to the systems. But now, as a part of handover to the customer, you can just give them this simple inputs that the customer needs to do. I mean, as I understand, initially you perform all the tasks to the customers and then you hand it over to the customer so that from that time onwards, customer will do it themselves. So this is what is the best thing, that you don't really give a customer a lot of things or no complex template, just give this service which will just need a minimum inputs for a customer to enter. And that's it. Customer is ready to go and do their tasks.
Correct, yeah. So you can also, this will allow me to either select an individual server. So I can, for example, let's say filter for specific names as well. You can also select group over here. So it will then display all my groups. And obviously I can go ahead and actually select a group as well. So if you have multiple servers that you're always provisioning to, you can just add it as a group within administrator, because remember, this is still going to Op Center administrator. So whatever is registered in there will obviously be available as a selection over here. I'm just going to go to a single server. You can also do a metro cluster. So you'll see the secondary server. I can also go ahead and select where my secondary volume should be mapped to. But in brackets there, this is optional. If you don't select a secondary server, then the secondary volumes just gets mapped through to the primary server that you have selected. All right, so that's pretty much it. So now he can actually go through and execute this. Okay, so obviously you can see it skipped over this because there was no, we unticked that button to create a ticket. It's also not going to wait for it. So it pretty much goes straight ahead into creating the volume. Should we go into administrator, there you can obviously see that it's being kicked off. All right, so this is going to go ahead and obviously create the volume. I've by default made mine to always enable a Lua. And what it'll do is it will always pick the primary array. So based on my server selection, it knows what is in the DC1. And based on obviously what my primary array is, that will always be the optimized path. And my secondary array will always be the non-optimized path. If I do this as a metro cluster, then whatever is on the DC1 side, obviously its optimized path will be the local array, and on the DC3 side, its optimized will obviously be the DC3 array. So no need to actually select any paths. It will do that all automatically for you. Right, there we can see it's starting to create our copy group, and there we can see in Protector, it's now popped in, and it's currently in progress creating that for us. So we'll give it a second. Once it's done, we should see one replication pair completely created.
Yeah, so team, by the time it's happening, just wanted to reiterate, if you do this, all these steps manually, you have to go through multiple tools or using multiple CLIs to achieve this. And here, you're actually automating all that stuff from Automator, so that, and this is becoming more repeatable, right? So you can just execute or give this service execution. So this is maybe,
we also decided we wanted to do it through the Op Center API. So for in this case, administrator. Well, firstly, because that functionality is already built into administrator and it is exposed via the API. So it makes it super easy to kind of tap into it. And all I needed to do is to capture that REST call and then obviously provide the input variables. So that was super easy to do. I believe in the one of the following steps, we're going to show you exactly how that was done. But then also, because I'm using Op Center to do this, it means I never have to, I'm not creating it outside Op Center, so I never have to do a refresh within Op Center, especially administrator, so that administrator becomes aware of it. Because I use the API, administrator is now fully aware of it and no need to obviously then refresh. Right, and there's our copy group completed. And we now have a full GAD pair set up over them. Right, so that was the one. Right, so we're going to go back to my services. Right, and then we also had one for which William actually created, one of my colleagues.
Yeah, so Johan, you may tell them how quickly this is done, right? So you also do that time stamping, correct? So for how much time it took to complete that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
if I go to the task over here, you can kind of see there 16:58 completed at 10:16:08. So yeah, a couple of seconds.
Yeah, and see how many tasks were performed in between, right? So this helps not only just automated, but also reduce the time.
Exactly. Yeah. There's another one I'm going to show you. I'm going to circle back to that, which is just the normal create one. So that was a GAD one, and we also have one just to create a simple volume. And then we can actually execute a report of that. I'm first going to show you this one because this was a requested one, which will basically do the same as this one to create a volume, but then also with zoning. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, oh, actually, let me just edit it so I can actually again show you the template first. All right, so here we can see again, we're pointing to the administrator. Now, this one, notice there is no icon like this. You can also, there's two behaviors when you're setting up a service template. You can decide, do you want to expose the web connection on creating a service or only or executing a service? So in other words, if I'm editing a service, you can see this web connection. But if the user executes it, he cannot see this. So you have actually two options available. Again, it depends on, do you want to allow a user to maybe manage multiple administrator instances, in which case he can then select the web connection that he wants to work with, or does he not have to be bothered with that, in which case you might as well then lock it down, or do it in this fashion where only the user that has the rights to edit the service can obviously then pick the service, but when the user executes it, he will not see it. So again, you have multiple options available. Right, so again, we've locked it down to a specific array. Now, the reason for that is, let me just log into that vCenter environment.
So, Johan, while you're logging
Yes.
in, just wanted to add to exactly what you've said to that point. So here now, when you actually changing those service templates, you can actually make them available to different levels of users. So, for example, you wanted a user who could just do very, very simple operations. You can hide all the complexities behind the service template. So even in the service catalog, they may only need to do 2 clicks, for example, to say create a volume or provision a volume. What Johan just showed you was taking the complexity behind the operation away from that different type of user. So that's possible for every iteration of a service template you create as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, OJ. All right, so for this host over here, it already has a couple of storage devices, but it does not have one that actually goes to the array that I'm going to pick right now. And I'm going to show you that we're going to log into the SAN fabric, and I'm going to show you that there is nothing zoned for this. So there's one of, well, actually my 2 HBAs. You can see there the last couple of digits, one F39 and one F3A is obviously my 2 worldwide names. All right, so let me get into my switch over here. So I had it open since yesterday. So let me just go ahead. Okay, so we're on the Fabric A side. I think that should be the 1F39. So we can go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to show you the active zone over here. Whoops. And we're going to grep for, let's say, zone. Let me just see. I think it's capital. Oh, it's lowercase, right? So let's go ahead and do zone. And then we're also going to look at that one. Oh, don't want to paste it. There we go. Okay, now if I scroll up, so these are all the zones, and then if that member is actually part of the zone, here we go. So all the purple ones, you can see it's where it actually picked up that worldwide name over there. So if I scroll up a little bit further, I think that should be it. It's only those few over there. Yes, because that's where our command started. So if I go back down, right, so these are the few that we have over here where it is zone 2. Now this worldwide name over here, you can see the first one, the 10.0, there's the actual worldwide name of that specific one over there, just without the colons in between. This bit over here is the worldwide name of the storage array. So that 60E80 over there is Hitashi's vendor ID. And then this little bit over here, so these couple or these 4 over there are actually the serial number of the array in a hex format. And then the last 2 over there is actually the port ID that we are zone 2. So we can see we have a 7877, another one, and then we have a AB1D over here, and we have a 4EF3. So what we can do, if I go over here, you can see I did it a little bit earlier. So 7877 over there is actually my DC3 one. So that's 30839. 7871 would be my primary array, so 30833. And the array that we're actually going to go to, 53435, is D0BB. You can see there is no D0BB if you look at those 4 ones over there. So that's the one that we're going to pick over here. So just again, 3435. Right, that's the one that we're looking for. So we're going to our template, and you can see there 3435. So that's what he had selected, which is actually my quorum, but it's a virtualized array, and it's situated in my DC2. So my DC2 server now obviously needs access to that. Right, we're going to do from just a pool over here. You can see these are all unlocked. So that's all that needs to be selected. And then, whoops, I'll just scroll to the bottom. You can see that we've already selected our DC1 array over here, server over here, DC2, sorry, I say DC1. So 181.195. And if I go back to my VMware, you'll see 181.195. Okay, so let's go back and execute this. So I'm just going to cancel because since we're editing this, and then go back to Automator, and we're going to do a proper request of this. Right, so again, I need to specify the pool. So this is the only thing that the user would see. We obviously have an LDEF name over here, so we can just call it, let's say, demo data store, for instance, and we'll make it a little 30 gig over there. And we have a button over here to say enable the zoning, and also where do we want our LDEF ID to actually start. I just want to make sure I don't think we have a demo DS. So if I go back to my servers here, and we look for our DC2, because we're going to actually keep this open. So there's my 195 one. Right, and here's all the volumes that we currently have. And we don't have a demo DS, right? So we're going to use that name. And we're going to get and submit and view the task. Right, so we go back to Automator. That should obviously kick off my task. And that's going to go and actually create that volume for us. So in here, we should actually see 2 tasks. So he split it up into 2 operations. The first one is actually to create the volume. And then the second one is to actually attach the volume. Right, so there's the create volume that just happened. Okay, we can see D03 over there. So we should now, if we go back to our server, it will actually pop in here once that attach job is done. And then also it should do the zoning for us. So if we run the same command and we scroll up, okay, so it hasn't done it yet. We'll give it a couple of seconds. Maybe go to our job so we can monitor it from there. So part of these attach, you will see that there should be a zoning operation. So there we go. So it looks like the zoning might have been done now. So let's run it again. No, doesn't look like it, still not. Give it a couple of more seconds. Probably still gathering the information. Okay, so that should be done. So again, let's run it. And there we go, D0BB. So just did the zoning for us. And I should now be able to go to my host over here, do a rescan. And if I go to storage devices, there should now be a new 30 gig volume. So I just want to grab onto that. My touchpad a little bit sensitive. There we go. Rescan still running. So let's just. Oh, there we go. Just popped in over there. 0D03, so as you can see over there, and on D0BB. Right, so that's one way of doing it. Right, so the other one that I wanted to show you, which was not really requested, but I thought you might find it interesting. So it's exactly the same principle. This one just creates a volume, again with ServiceNow, but we're going to skip over that. Let me just edit this one. think I have most of the things already hidden in here. Yeah, so we can just go ahead and actually execute it. Actually, let's do this because I've got, just want to change just to show you that we're going to do this for different groups. So this one I had on that, so we'll do a development one, for instance, and let's say it's for the dev department. And this might be a 33332345 or something like that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a request. This is just going to create a plain volume for us. So obviously I can say in what array, what pool, what label. So we'll just add a 5 on there. What capacity? So let's say a 50 gig. How many? What server do you want to attach it to? So I'm just going to do it to my SQL one over here. And we'll go ahead and submit the task. Okay, again, you can see it's skipping over the service now, and it's going to go and create the volume. So we should again see a job being kicked off over here. There we go. I want to wait till this completes because I also want to show you that you can even automate running a task. So obviously everything that you're seeing right now, the service itself is also exposed as an API endpoint, meaning that you can actually execute and even provide the input variables for this specific automation from somewhere else, like Ansible or even from the command line, if you want to call it from a Python script or something like that. But more importantly is you can automate the process of doing things really quickly if you have to do subsequent ones. So let's say I just created a volume. I thought, oh no, I should have made it 2 volumes, or I should have done something else. I needed actually another volume for argument's sake. You can actually then right click on this and it remembers everything that you've actually filled in. So you can say just do a similar request and everything is then already filled in for you. So now I can go, yes, I just wanted another one. So let's just make it a 6 over there, and it needed to be 100 gig, for instance. Don't know why I didn't remember my SQL over here, but we'll pick that quickly and we'll say submit and view the task. And that will go ahead and then just do literally another one for us. So quick and easy. What I also want to show you is if I go to services is obviously under tasks, we can see once you execute something, it actually turns on a filter. So if I turn it off, you'll obviously see all the jobs that we executed at the moment. If I want to do auditing on this, so let's say I want to go and I want to generate a report so that I can bill these people that actually made use of my services over here. We actually have a little template that can now tap into all that. It points literally to the original service template, but you can also point it to a specific service. So if you only want to bill a specific department, for instance sake, so I can say create a request, and it will find everything that has been executed. So there we can see some previous ones and literally the one that we did over there. And if I wait a couple of seconds when the other one completes, then this one will also actually show up over here. And I can go and actually use the built-in filter over here to say I want to filter on, let's say, a specific group name. So I want to build the group department, and let's say it should equal, or maybe start with, let's say tech, for instance sake, and it will obviously filter for all of that. And you can add that to your report and then obviously export it. And you also see that if you did this as a, let's say there was an incident ticket log, then that detail will actually also be included over here. And there we can see the IDs that was created in decimal and in hex, the capacity, the number of volumes, the label, and obviously from what array and everything it was generated from. All right, I think that was pretty much it. I can't remember if there was another one that needed to be shown. Johnny, was there anything else on the list, or did we cover everything?
We've covered the 3 templates that were requested as part of the process. The only ones that we still need to show that is outstanding is the integration endpoints into third party. So the topic that we discussed with the team was that they wanted to see some integration with Ansible.
All right. Do you want to show it, or should I go ahead and show it?
Well, you're already sharing, so if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, right, I do have things set up that I can show.
Okay, well then, yeah, okay. I was just going to show them how in Postman we expose the endpoints, but yeah, if you've got it set up for Ansible, then let me go ahead and stop my sharing.
Hey team, by the way, this is switchover is happening. Again, wanted to ask the same question. If you have any questions on this, because It's important that we understand what are the use cases that will help you, right? So please feel free to ask questions again. Or have you understood this, or you think that something you want to see it one more time, or didn't really have a clear idea? Please let us know.
The first thing I wanted to show you is on when you deploy Ops Center, on the Ops Center public directory. You'll see this is in OPT Hitachi, there's Automator, and then there's a public directory. In the public directory, you'll find a couple of directories. The first one, which we'll discuss now, is for the Ansible integration. So in there, you'll find an Ansible module that you can extract and install in your Ansible server. There will also be 2 playbooks, sample playbooks for expanding and creation of volumes, so that you can use to adjust or to change or to automate or to customize it. The other ones that I wanted to show you was the integration with ServiceNow. And you'll also see that there's other directories called content, storage content, and reserved content. So this is for additional templates that are available that you can extract into Automator, because some of the templates might be, from different older sort of versions, but some people still use it, but maybe the new people don't. So in these directories, there are also templates that are not available as the base platform, but they are on the Automator server, so it's quite simple just to import them. For ServiceNow, the same thing. You'll see that in the ServiceNow directory, we've got a ServiceNow XML adapter, like I've mentioned. This you install in ServiceNow, and then ServiceNow is able to connect from its cloud-based portal into your Automator platform. We've got a whole setup guide that will take you through how to set up your ServiceNow instance to talk to your Automator platform. Okay, but the
Johnny,
yes?
there's just been a request that you slow it down a little bit. There's some of the guys says they're struggling to follow. We're speaking a bit too fast.
Okay, sorry, I'll speak a little bit slower. So the what we'll focus on now is the Ansible integration, and I'll show you some Ansible demonstrations. The first thing that I wanted to show you is, well, let's maybe start with the CLI. So here I've got I'll just make this a little bit bigger. Let me just log in again. So this is our Ansible server. I'm going to go to my Ansible projects, and inside my Ansible projects, I've got a couple of directories. One is my playbooks directory. How obviously Ansible work is through a YAML file format. And what I have for you guys here is to show you a simple automation to provision a volume to a server. If we look at the playbook itself here, you'll see that the playbook is consisting of 3 different tasks. So obviously, when you're going to do any sort of automation with integration, there is not just a question as you're going to tell the storage how you do this. I mean, there's a couple of steps that's required. I mean, you first need to log in, because you can't just let anybody just issue a create task. So you obviously need to identify yourself. So this you can set up in this method that we've done here, is to take the tasks and create them as separate YAML files. So what my login looks like is very basic, and this is a YAML format for logging into our Ops Center server, and then obviously also providing the base authentication, as you can see there, to log in. This is really simple also to navigate. I mean, if you want to do this yourself as well, you can go into your Ops Center server. And this is not just for administrator, this is for any one of the products where the GUI on the back end actually use the API. Sorry, I'm using self-signed certificates. So to give you an example of such an example that you can, I'm going to make something really basic. So let's say we wanted to get all the volumes that are between a 90 and 100% utilized, because you want to create automation that finds these volumes and then let's say expand them. So what you do is you take your browser and you put it into developer mode. So all browsers have got like an inspect element that you can expect what's happening. You put it in network, and as soon as I put 100% there, you'll see there is the query that the server actually performed to get this information. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that the information there basically matches what my response is here. And now we can take this call and we can copy this as a curl. And if we execute it, let's say in another program, let's say I'm going to just maybe close this here. As you can see there, I've got my couple of volumes. And let's say if I go execute this in an API program like Postman, which is just a Google API, there I'm pasting that query. I can get that query and execute it from other CLI, and there I can see is my exact same information, LAN 165. There you can see LAN 165. I can get all this information directly from another tool set like this. The other thing that I can do to take it to Ansible is, obviously this is now in this call that we have here, is a curl call that we have, and now to get this to a format that Ansible understands, and this is what the playbooks that we already provided for you is doing, but let me just show you how did we get there, is they're using a converter. So there are many converters available out there. This one is also just simple. I remember it, curl convert, and you can convert your curl command into an Ansible format, and there's literally the Ansible, the YAML file that you then would create to get you a list of all the volumes that are between a 90 and 100%. So this is pretty much then this YAML file that you see here, and then you can stack them together to say, as you see how I've stacked them here, I first do a logging and then I do a create volume. So if I execute this, probably would have been easier. Let me see, why can I not find it? Bloody book. Let's just delete this one. It will then log into my server and then create the volume. I didn't set the volume label. So, but this is not just for our like I said, our storage arrays. You can even extend that to servers as well, because I also have the server is the same sort of concept where you can take the curl commands and you can convert them to YAML files and import them. But this is the CLI sort of view that you get from Ansible. But Ansible also has Ansible Tower, which is the GUI interface into Ansible. Where that same sort of scenario, I can go create a volume, give the volume another label if I wanted to. And obviously, as you can see, that same sort of structure, there goes the login, and there goes the creation of the task is then displayed in the Ansible Tower instance for me. And if I correlate it back, go to jobs, I see there is the job for creating the volume that I've just specified. And there it's done. Creating the volume, my volume is done. So bidirectional interface with Ansible is also available. So either from Ansible, like you see, we can connect to from Ansible into Automator, or the other way around, from my Automator platform, I also have templates that I can create to talk to Ansible if I need to leverage on Ansible, because it's got the REST API capability. I'm assuming you guys obviously asked this question because you are looking at integrating some things with Ansible. Can you maybe give us just some background on what you're trying to do? Hello?
Hello. Hey, I think Ringo, are you there, Ringo?
I believe Wingo may be leave because
Okay.
it's number is no battery. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Sam, can you just check with the partner teams like overall this, and especially on these integration part, do they have any other questions, or they have understood or not understood, or anything in particular that they're looking for?
Yeah, I believe the demonstration is very fruitful, and then at this moment they may need time to understand. Maybe I may collect or wish my partner team later and then get their feedback.
Okay. So I see, I think a lot of people are actually missing now than the initial people who had joined. So I'm not sure who else are there and who has left from the partner
Hi,
side.
this is Terence from ACW again. So,
Yeah.
can you send us this demo recording so that we can review it later?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I
thank you.
also wanted to leave some time for OJ just to talk maybe about the community page, because I did mention at the beginning we do have a community page, but like I was saying, it's currently undergoing some maintenance.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. I'll just make a mention because I think some people have left already, but we do have a community page. It's called community.hitachivantara.com, and in that page we have a lot of downloadable content from all the other product groups, and for example, there's Ops Center, there's actually HCP, there's sort of HNAS. All the groups actually can post questions in there, and they can actually post sort of updates, documents, white papers, etc., like that, to help our community. Myself and Johnny are actually preparing an area of that community whereby you'll be able to download some of the service templates that the excuse me, COE create. So for example, these can be used inside of your own environment for test purposes, or if you feel comfortable, you can actually download them into your production environment, or anything there that we provide is to help the user to actually understand what that particular use case is doing, and maybe it may help sort of somebody else in another use case that they can create themselves for their own environment. So that's actually being built at this present moment. We're just setting up the community itself on different type of for white papers and service templates and API as well. So that will probably be going live in the next few weeks, actually. So please do head over to the community to download some of that content. And because what we felt was sometimes when our colleagues in the COE are showing a demo, customers and partners may want to use those templates and use them as part of a service to actually develop it for their customers. And
Hey,
so,
OJ, sorry, just one. Can you paste, at least show that community once so that people understand, or paste the link here?
Of course, I will. Yeah, that's a
Because
very
that
good.
will be good so that they will know what you are
Of course,
saying.
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Sorry. I'll share more. There we go. Yes. So let me share.
See, team, I think there are a lot of tools available within the Hitachi community site, which can be leveraged by the partners or anybody for that matter who wants to create some automation templates and services.
So this is the general community, as you can see. So let me sign in, and I'll just show you what we're doing. Sorry, we're gonna have to. Okay.
So just one thing for partners, you need to have your access enabled. I'm sure you have your access to community, right? Logins. So if you log into the community site with your authorized username passwords, then you will have a lot of material which could be useful.
So this is my particular community, but to view stuff, you don't actually really need to be signed in. You can go into the community, but obviously, if you want to comment on some of the content you see, you do have to sign in. So, for example, if we go to products, for example, they will tell you you've got data protection, analytics, and you can go to, say, Op Center. So if I go to Op Center, at the moment, it's actually very one directional, so you'll see everything under here is being piped under Op Center. So what we are doing is building a library of separate products, and then we'll go into sort of Automator API for all the service templates. And then there's another community called developers, where again this is where we will post all of the service templates from the COE. So we're at the middle of creating this directory structure. As soon as myself and Johnny have actually completed that, the community administrators will go live, and you'll see a different sort of format. And you have other things like here, product solutions that you can comment on, you know, AI driven solutions, for example. Yeah, that type of thing. So it's good to post in here because we will have visibility, I'll have visibility, the COE will have visibility, and my colleagues at IT Pro will have visibility. So if there's a question that is asked in the community itself, somebody will be able to respond fairly rapidly because we have that sort of email that we share across 3 different teams. So please head to community, sign up for it, and explore and ask questions. And there's even a partner page for you there as well, so you can go into that and be linked into your Salesforce and your community page as well. So if you do have any questions, we can do links between the two as well, and we can do tags as well between the two. So at the moment, we don't have anything to show just yet, but do go ahead and sign into the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have about 9 minutes left. Is there anything specific that anybody still maybe wants to see, or is there anybody that maybe still have a question about what you've seen, or maybe some other possibilities? Or, you know, we can take all the questions now, and maybe even some feedback if you have.
So Johnny, one of the things we wanted to show all of our partners and colleagues which are on the call, and obviously we're recording this for the colleagues who have left, we want to take the session further by doing deeper dive sessions. So if you saw there was particular use cases you liked, but you wanted to do a deeper dive session, we are thinking in the future to do sort of like maybe even a face-to-face session of the deep dive use cases and how to navigate through Service Builder, more of a sort of a Service Builder workshop, really, I think we can say. So I think we're just still exploring those ideas, and so if there is more interest from our colleagues and the partners, most certainly we can sort of raise that and try and organize a workshop over an X number of days, so our colleagues feel more comfortable with on how to use Service Builder and anything that may come across their services.
Yeah, so OJ, on that point, I think we'll have to give them some time to digest this, and once they have this recording, they can go through it again, and probably they can come up with the questions. We'll definitely take up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not suggesting that this is this is near term. This is long term.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we want our colleagues to feel comfortable with what they've seen and the questions that they ask. That is a next step they may want to move to. Thank you.
Correct. So Sam, I think one more thing we'll need your help is to follow up, and after these teams are comfortable, probably we have to start working on the next steps, because we just really want to make sure that teams understand the advantages of using Automator, not just for there, but also to their customers, which could be a differentiator for us.
Yes, I think so. Then maybe you can get those links, including the community, and then can you also share the PowerPoint and today's video so that I can consolidate and send to my partners. And I will also to go through with them one by one and then collect their feedback. In case if they have some further questions or any area they would want to know more, then I may raise the request to you all.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you for all your times.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
thanks, COE team.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
everybody.
you,
Johan,
everybody.
William,
Thanks for you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Ujay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
and
Thank
IT
you.
Pro
Bye.
colleagues.
Thanks. Yeah. Have a nice day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Have a
Thank
nice day.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.